Hello, my name is Cheryl Meyer, otherwise known as Cheryl M. Health Muse, and I am a health coach. I want to welcome you to my podcast, It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future Proof Your Health. This is a weekly show that will share lifestyle changes that you can make to support your health yourself. Why do I want to share this information with you? 7 years ago, after being a business owner for 20 years, I woke up one morning in horrific pain where every bone and every joint in my body hurt. I went to the doctor. She ran lots of tests, and then she ran some more, and then she ran some more, and finally she called me and announced she was going to give me steroids, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with me and I should seek therapy. I knew something was wrong. I hurt. So she told me I would be on steroids for the rest of my life, and I refused that I was going to have a life of pain and pills. So why was I going to take steroids if there was nothing wrong with me? So I dug in and started researching, and I turned my business over to my staff. I found a functional doctor who confirmed that I had autoimmune disease. By making a series of significant lifestyle changes that I could do for myself, 5 years later, I had returned to relative health. The best part is that I am now 70, and I feel better now than I did when I was 50. I no longer hurt, which is huge. I will always have autoimmune disease, but losing the pain has been amazing. I went back to school at 67 and became a health coach because I want to share everything that I learned with others. And I wrote a book called It Feels Good to Feel Good, Learn to Eliminate Toxins, Reduce Inflammation, and Feel Great Again, as the manual I wish that I had had when I got sick, and my book has won 13 awards. So whether you want to future-proof your health and grow old with dignity and grace without dementia and chronic pain and disease, which you don't need to get, or whether or not you already have a chronic condition like autoimmune disease or cancer or heart disease, and you want to learn about what things you can do to improve your long-term health, or whether you want to improve the health of your families and raise healthy children, because 53% of our children have a chronic condition, I look forward to sharing all this information with you. I will tell you, it truly does feel good to feel good, so let's get started. I look forward to having you join me here every week, and I want to give you hope that if you have chronic pain or chronic disease, you can make changes that will improve your health. And if you don't want to go there, you're going to be fine if you listen to the show and put these things into work. I want to give you information so that you can grow old and have a better tomorrow. So thank you for joining me. Let's get started. Hello, welcome to another edition of It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future Proof Your Health. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit today because, like everyone, when they're on a journey, they continue to learn. And I have learned a whole lot about how we are eating, what it's doing to our bodies, and how we should be eating. I pretty much converted to this 9 years ago, but I keep learning about why this is important. So today I'm going to talk about the standard American diet, because I got a standard American disease because I was eating the standard American diet. And I don't want you to get a standard American disease, nor do I want any of us to die the standard American death, because that's exactly what happens from eating the standard American diet. I think most of you now know that the standard American diet is that we're eating chemicals, we're eating processed food, we're eating fast food, and all of that could include frozen processed food and even restaurant food that they're now buying all prepared in little baggies, and then they're zapping and arranging it on your plate. That's the American standard diet. And there's some net things that are happening, since that's what the majority of people in the United States are eating. We're all getting sick. I believe it's what's wrong with our healthcare system. It can't keep up because this is the food that we're eating, and it's the reason that 54% of our kids have chronic illness. So understanding exactly what's going on with your body when you're eating this food is really important, because when I'm out speaking, and I hope to do that again soon, people come back to me and they go, I don't want to give it up. I don't want to be deprived. I don't want to have to cook. It takes too much time to cook. And I need to find a way to explain the why so that it becomes so strong that you're willing to start to change. So I'm going to discuss some of the things that I have learned along my journey, especially in the last 3 years since I have been eating real food and cooking 95% of what I put into my body, which is also why, even though I still have autoimmune disease, I no longer have pain. And then we're going to compare the SAD diet to the GLAD diet, the Green Living American diet, which is your alternative possibility. And so I want you to stop eating the SAD and I want you to start eating the GLAD. And so I'm going to spend the next hour trying to convince you that your why to do this should be as great as mine. Okay? So let's get started. The Green Living diet, by the way, is live food. It's where we eat vegetables and fruit, preferably from someplace close to us, although I'm lucky. I live in LA and we have lots of fresh food available all year long, and the majority of the food that is grown that goes out across the United States, that is grown in the United States, actually is grown here. The fruits and the vegetables are grown here in the state of California. So I have an abundance. I'm also very lucky because our second home is in Sedona and I have an abundance of really good food there. And we're getting more and more great food in our grocery stores, so it's easier to find fresh fruits and vegetables, but we're still opting to eat the SAD diet. So let's talk a bit about this. Right from the beginning, I want to share to you what the risks are of eating the standard American diet. The SAD: obesity, diabetes, leaky gut, depression, lack of energy, cravings, disease, cancer, poor digestion, chronic inflammation. It comes directly because of the foods that we're eating, and a weak immune system. You may have realized that we here in the United States have been hit really hard with the Corona-19 virus. And the reason for that is because we're not healthy. So there will be other super viruses coming down the line, gang. So I strongly recommend you clean up how you're eating now and start to build your immune system so whenever the next one comes along, you have a strong enough immune system that you don't get it, you don't go to the hospital, you don't get put on a respirator, and you don't die. So this is important, and the SAD is directly related to almost all of our chronic illnesses, which is all the autoimmune diseases, cancer, and heart disease. And of course, diabetes is part of that. So I have some numbers for you I'm going to share along the way, but I just wanted to put it into perspective. The benefits of the GLAD diet: you get to go to a healthy weight, and actually it's without even dieting. You get vibrant energy. You're happy. It actually will directly impact your mood. That's a pretty darn good reason to be eating the GLAD diet right there. You will have glowing skin because the SAD diet shortens the telomeres, which we've talked about, which are the tips of your DNA, like the tips on shoelaces. And when you start shortening your telomeres, your organs start to die and your skin starts to get wrinkled and starts to age. So I don't know about you, I'm 72 and I don't want to go there. And if your telomeres start to shorten, you stop getting cognizance and you start to deplete your cognizance and you start to head towards dementia, which is another place that I don't want to go. Eating the GLAD diet gives you a healthy heart. It gives you healthy digestion. Anybody out there who is constantly struggling with GERD and popping all kinds of pills to keep your acid down? Well, guess what? If you eat the GLAD diet, you're eating an alkaline diet and your digestion's not doing that to you. And you don't get acid reflux, which is a pretty darn good thing unto itself. You get colon health, you get longevity, you get vitality, and you get a strong immune system. So, GLAD versus SAD, which one do you want to eat? Me, I want to eat the GLAD diet, and I want you to join me. 86% of our chronic disease burden today is from lifestyle driven or lifestyle modifiable habits. I want you to say that to yourself again. 86% of our disease burden is chronic because it is lifestyle driven and lifestyle modifiable. In other words, you have more power over your health than you realize. So watch this whole show because you're going to learn a lot that would allow you to take back your power and return to great health. And I have a theory, which I've talked about on this show before, that most people are not even aware of just how lousy they feel. So if you're somebody who kind of feels lousy, that's not because you're aging. That's because you have lifestyle habits that are impacting your body. And I want you to get past those. Excuse me. You control that, you can change it, and you can return to vibrant, exciting health. So think about what you can change about what you're doing now, and think about how much power you have over your body while we're talking. Jamie Oliver, who got himself in trouble because he tried to get school systems to change what they were feeding kids in the schools. He is a chef, and he is very concerned about the health, particularly of our children, like I am. And this is a quote from him. Homicide is 0.8% of deaths in the United States. 0.8%. But diet-related disease is over 60%, and yet no one is talking about it. And I know some of you are going to say to me, but my kids don't want to eat healthy food. They want to eat cookies. They want to eat chips. And if that's the case, go back and listen to my first two shows on children, which just dropped, because you make a difference in terms of how your kids eat. They're little pitchers. They will follow what you teach them. And if you get them into the kitchen and you inspire them to become little cooks with you, and you sit around the table with them for breakfast and for dinner, you have more influence over the habits they adopt over the course of their life than you realize. And you can raise healthy children that love eating fruits and vegetables and don't want to eat that crud. Remember the little kid who said to his grandma, "Hey grandma, we don't eat that food because we don't feel good when we eat that food." That goes back to what you're teaching your kids, and it's important because if they're not eating the right food, they don't have the right brain power, and they can't possibly be as successful in school as they are when you're feeding them all the phytonutrients of the rainbow. The United States food consumption, and this is an old statistic, it goes back to 2015, but it was the only one I could find. 60% of what Americans eat is processed and fast food. 63%. Now, what's the net result of that? Most of what's in fast food and processed food doesn't have much nutrition in it at all. It's fake food. It's chemicals. It's things that your body cannot utilize to be healthy. And if you're actually eating fruits and vegetables, which plant food is only 12% of the American diet, then you have all the nutrients that you need to be rebuilding, to have new cells, to have brain power, to sleep through the night, All the things about vibrant health that you're looking for comes from eating plant food, but we're not doing it. And so instead, we're a sick country, and from family to family, we're sick. And don't tell me it's from genetics, because it's not. Habits run in families. I know genetics are passed down from generations, but you have the choice to turn the switch on to whatever that thing is you inherited in your genetics, or to leave that switch off. If you have a long history of cancer in your genetics, that doesn't mean you have to get it. If you eat mostly fruits and vegetables, you will not turn that switch on, so you're not going to go down that road. So habits run in families. If you're eating bad in a family, most likely you're all eating bad, so you're all getting the same standard American diseases, and then you're going to all die the same standard American death. Think about it. Okay? 25% of the United States population eats animal food. And you know, I don't care if a client that works with me is eating animal food. I do care what the quality of that animal food is. I want people to eat grass-fed, grass-finished, and the diet that they were put on this earth to eat. So I don't want them eating GMO feed. We're going to talk about that one more time. I don't want them squished together in factory farming so that they're loaded with stress hormones. I want them eating what they were born to eat, which in the case of cows is grass, both fed and finished. In the case of porks is also pastured. Lamb is pastured, eating grass. And chickens is running around in the pasture eating grass and berries and bugs. And the bugs make that chicken taste great. So if you're going to eat animal food, you don't need as much. We're going to talk about that. But it needs to be quality. And frankly, everything needs to be quality. You're worth it. You only have one body. So it's worth it to feed it the highest quality food that you can afford. Okay? So this is how, now, eating the standard American diet is actually an addiction. It's an addiction both mentally and physically. So we're going to talk about what it is and then how to break that addiction. The standard American diet is a modern dietary pattern afflicting American adults and children with long-term damaging health consequences. By definition, the American Standard Diet is ultra-processed foods loaded with hidden added sugar, fat, and it's not the good fat. It's not bad to get omega-6s, but in processed food and fast food, that's all you're getting. And what you need are the omega-3s, which are much better for you. And then tons of sodium. So it is a dangerous cocktail all the way around. Consumption of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and lean protein is lacking in the standard American diet. With fast food restaurants on seemingly every corner and processed foods lining grocery store aisles, making healthy food choices has to be a conscious choice. So you need to plan it before you leave the house, because you need to know what you're going to buy and what you're not going to buy, because if you're only going to buy things that come from the standard American diet, your body's going to be in big trouble in short order. It even sometimes seems like it's an impossible feat. These poor dietary choices lead to chronic illnesses and are putting a serious strain on our healthcare system. I am convinced that if we got government support to clean up our diets, we're still going to need health insurance, but we wouldn't be breaking the bank, and those companies would be able to take care of us far better, because we would lower our amount of disease dramatically. There has been so much misinformation in popular media, coupled with a substantial lack of knowledge held by the general public. This is only further adding confusion to this issue, which is why I'm doing this podcast, because I want you to be smart about food. Thankfully, simple dietary habit changes can improve your health and reduce the risk of developing many chronic illnesses. And I'm here to tell you, it can also reverse them. I had horrible pain 9 years ago. And I was told I was going to live a life of pain and pills for the rest of my life. And I still have autoimmune disease, but because I've cleaned up my lifestyle habits, I no longer have the pain and I'm living a healthy and vibrant life. You can too. And it doesn't really take all that long. My body started celebrating pretty quickly when I changed my lifestyle. So get in the habit of talking to yourself every morning, even now, even if you feel lousy. Ask yourself, how do you feel today? And then pay attention to it. You got to get quiet and listen to it. But your body's very smart and it will start to tell you. And as you start to change, your body will start to celebrate and it will start telling you when it starts feeling pretty darn good. The sugars, chemicals, fat, and sodium in fast food is a common element of the standard American diet. So I want you to move away from all of that stuff. I recommend that you stop eating fast food altogether. On rare occasion, when I get into trouble and I'm out and about, I'll eat Chipotle because they use quality ingredients. If I'm in trouble and I'm out and about and I'm going to go into a grocery store, I'll buy a head of organic lettuce and I'll buy some Applegate cold cuts that are organic and an organic tomato and make my own wrap. You don't have to eat that food no matter what's going on or where you are. You have different choices. You just have to be conscious that your body's worth it for you to make them. And remember, all those things that are in processed food that you can't pronounce or that you don't know what they are, your body doesn't know what they are either, so it can't utilize them. So if there are things in that box that you don't know what they are, put it back on the shelf. Why are you giving your body fake food? Okay? Your body wants real nutrients. And meaning you don't know what it is includes things like natural flavors, which is probably MSG, which you all know is bad for your body. But they hide it because they don't want you to know. This outlines the type of foods that is commonly consumed in the American Standard Diet. Fried foods. One of the things that really is annoying me right now is the Ore-Ida potato, frozen potato, where he's going to bribe his daughter with giving her those potatoes so that she'll eat her broccoli. Is that really what you want to teach your daughter? You want her eating chemicals? We're going to talk about how many chemicals are in potatoes, but those frozen potatoes have even more chemicals in them. So no, you don't want to be doing that. Fried foods are common in standard American diet. I toss things all the time in ghee, season them like potatoes and sweet potatoes and Jerusalem artichokes and I roast vegetables this way. I toss them in ghee, I season them, and then I throw them in the oven. I can make potato chips and sweet potato chips that are really nice and crispy without chemicals. And I buy organic in the first place, so there's no chemicals sprayed on them. Love your body. You don't have to be deprived. You can make your own food, and frankly, it's even more yummy. Grain-based desserts are part of the standard American diet. High-fat dairy is part of the American standard diet. Dairy, I'm iffy on. I can't eat it. I'm sensitive to it. But remember, milk is for baby cows. It wasn't designed by the universe to be for us. If you're going to eat dairy, make sure you eat full-fat dairy, because otherwise you're letting the dairy company get the best part of the milk. But if you're buying factory farmed milk, you're also getting antibiotics. You're getting all kinds of things in that milk. You're getting hormones because it's not natural for the mama cow to be constantly giving birth to babies so that she can constantly be producing milk. And believe it or not, it's not a good source for calcium. It does not do a body good. Milk is acidic, so it's actually pulling calcium out of your bones. So if you could avoid milk, avoid it. But if you want it, make sure that you're doing high fat, no low fat, no non-fat. The fat that's in the milk is actually good for you. And try to buy organic milk. or raw milk because your body will be much better off. If you're buying raw milk now, you're not going to get sick from it anymore. I know there was a time when we did, but we're not going to get sick from raw milk anymore. But it's a more complete product because it's the way nature intended it. So if you really want milk and you want the healthiest milk, make it organic raw milk. Processed foods are all loaded with all those things you can't pronounce and you don't know what they are. Processed meats are even worse. They're loaded with nitrates and nitrites, and so unless it's organic Applegate, I don't buy it because my body doesn't need those things. I even buy Applegate organic low sugar bacon. I still eat bacon, but I make sure that it's Applegate breakfast bacon and that it's low sugar so it doesn't have all those chemicals. Red meat from factory farming. Industrial ranching actually is feeding those animals genetically modified feed, which means it either has Bt toxin in it, which is blowing up the little bugs that are eating the plant, or it has been drowned in glyphosate, which is Roundup, which we now know, they've known is giving us cancer for 20 years. So you don't want that stuff. Buy organic meat, buy meat that eats his real diet. You need protein. It could be plant protein, but you do need protein, but it needs to be quality protein. Refined grains like white pasta, white flour, again, they are heavily sprayed with chemicals. Wheat is drowned in Roundup. And they did that for a couple of reasons. It gets them a greater yield from the wheat. So if you're eating a wheat product that's not organic, you're eating large amount of glyphosate with every bite. You don't need it. In the beginning, I thought I was gluten sensitive. Ends up I'm not gluten sensitive, but I was glyphosate sensitive. So if it's a wheat product, unless it's organic, I don't touch it. My body can't handle it. And then sugar-sweetened beverages are a huge part of the standard American diet, and they could have real sugar or they could have fake sugar, but they're both god-awful for your gut and god-awful for your body, so stop drinking them already. 50% of the micronutrients in the standard American diet come from simple carbohydrates, which means they turn directly into sugar, and sugar impacts every organ in your body and impacts your brain. Part of the problem is our government thinks we should be eating a lot of these foods. Their food pyramid actually incorporates these foods on it. That's because there's so much money, honey. They keep incorporating all of these products. You don't need to eat them. Your government is into the money along with big food, big agriculture and big pharma, and you have the power over what you put on and in your body. So take that power back and start eating better. The American Standard Diet is skewed towards protein and refined grains, while it completely lacks real fruits and vegetables. Now, the functional medical community thinks that 70% of your plate should be live food, should be fruits or vegetables, preferably organic, and you've all heard me talk about the Dirty Dozen list before. The Dirty Dozen list is on a card on my website. Go look it up, because if it's on the dirty side of that card, you do not want to be buying it unless it's organic. And I just pulled one item. I pulled a potato because I wanted to share with you just exactly what's on a potato, because it's really disgusting. And hopefully this will convince you why it's important to eat organic. There are 35 different pesticides on a potato. 6 are known or probable carcinogens. 12 are suspected hormone disruptors. Remember, it's the hormone disruptors that are making our little girls start their periods early and our little boys have way reduced sperm counts. So this is important. Remember that Ore-Ida bribe? Not only does it have all these chemicals on it, but it has the chemicals they added to it when they made it into frozen French fries. 7 of the pesticides on a potato are neurotoxins. Neurotoxins directly impact the brain and will, in the long run, give us dementia. 6 are developmental or reproductive toxins. And environmental effects, 9 of them are honeybee toxins. If we kill off our honeybees, gang, we don't have food. We need our honeybees to go out there and pollinate all of our crops so that we keep growing food. So this is important. I have stopped my gardener from even killing the dandelions in my yard because bees love dandelions, and so I want them to get it because I want us to always have bees, because I want us always to be able to grow our own food on this earth. I made a list of what all these pesticides are, and I'm not going to read the whole list, and I probably am not going to pronounce any of them correctly, but I want to give you an idea. Chlorphallam, insectilifrid, flotoland, azoxystrobin, thiabenazole, boscalide, thiazosazam, methylmelame. You know what any of these things are? I don't. I don't want them going into my body. And they all have little symbols next to them as to whether or not they're killing our bees, or they're going to get on us and kill us, or whether they're just so toxic that they're hurting our brains. All of these. And there's a long list of them, 39 to be exact. You don't want these in your body. So if it's on the Dirty Dozen list, you buy it organic. You save yourself from all of these horrific toxins. And the list goes on. There's also added sugars in processed and fast food. And America's total caloric intake is 13% sugar. Sugar damages every organ in our body. We shouldn't be eating 13% of our calories from sugar. I just did a sugar detox. I'm going to now do them quarterly. If you're interested, write to me at my email address, which is CherylMHealthMuse@gmail.com, because I will tell you, I just did the first one. Everybody was shocked that within about a week and a half, they no longer wanted sugar. It wasn't calling their name anymore, and now we're 4 weeks out of it, and they still don't want sugar. They would have told me it was impossible, but not only do they not want to eat that food, but they feel fantastic, and their bodies are already starting to celebrate. So come join me, or join somebody else's sugar detox, because it's important that you break the addiction, and I'm going to talk about what that addiction, how it works, but start thinking about getting off the sugar so that it's not calling your name anymore. And that makes it much easier to eat healthier food. The health implications of eating the SAD. Certain kinds of cancer, cardiovascular disease, a higher fasting glucose blood count, hypertension, increased LDL cholesterol, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and type 3 diabetes, which is dementia. Americans as a whole are consuming an excess number of calories, saturated fats, added sugar, and sodium. We are not eating enough fruits, vegetables, and fiber. Fiber is an important thing. Don't juice all your vegetables and your fruit. You need to be getting the fiber that comes naturally in those plant foods. And each of the fruits and vegetables have key nutrients that play a vital role in maintaining our body functions. So if we're eating the standard American diet, we're not getting enough calcium, vitamin D, fiber, and magnesium. And so start eating the foods that have those. These are the foods that have magnesium, sweet potatoes, potassium, sweet potatoes, tomato sauces, beet greens and spinach, beans, blackstrap molasses, bananas, radishes, and garlic. They all have potassium. You need potassium because it works with the calcium that you're also lacking. You can get calcium from all of those same plants, but you also can get it from kale, figs, and almonds. We need these nutrients in order to function properly. Only 12% of Americans are eating the recommended amount of fruits, and only 9% are eating the recommended amount of vegetables. So I want you to start to think that. The standard American diet is causing us all to be obese and overweight. It's causing diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, osteoarthritis, and gastroesophageal reflux disease. Doesn't sound like much fun, but you control it, you can clean it up, and you cannot go there. The main reason that obesity increases the risk of these disorders is because they're increasing the inflammation throughout our bodies. Even people who are not obese or overweight, who are eating the standard American diet, it's causing inflammation in them too, and plays an important role in creating or aggravating our diseases. Just because somebody's skinny doesn't mean they're healthy. So stop connecting those dots and thinking that's what it means. They can eat whatever standard American diet things they want because they're skinny. They could be a mess inside their body if that's what they're eating, because they're not getting nutrients, and they need nutrients. Numerous studies have shown the connection between specific dietary components and a range of diseases. Diets high in saturated fat is raising your cholesterol. And remember, all this stuff has to go through your liver. If you didn't watch my liver podcast, go back and watch them, because as goes your liver, goes your body. And it impacts every organ in your body. And all of this stuff, the sugar, the toxins in the food, the chemicals that you don't know what they are, they all have to go through the liver. And the liver does a really great job until it gets tired, and it can't. Diets high in sugar and white flour raise your serum triglycerides. Do you have a problem with your triglycerides? Are you puzzled with how to get rid of them? You don't want to be taking a medication for that. You want to change your lifestyle and change your diet, because then you can do it naturally and your body will be much healthier. Same thing with cholesterol. If you eat for a healthy liver, and I talk about that at length in my 3 liver podcasts, if you eat for your liver, you won't have high cholesterol and high triglycerides. And the number 1 cause of heart disease, by the way, is fatty liver, even more so than smoking. So treat your liver with love and stop eating the standard American diet. Diets high in processed food also cause depression. Diets high in cured and processed red meats risk colon cancer. And the standard American diet is filled with pro-inflammatory and allergenic foods because of all the artificial chemicals in them. And it damages and prematurely ages your brain and increases your risk for physical and mental issues. It could happen when you're in your middle life. It could definitely happen as you grow older. And people who are my age, I'm part of the boomers, they sort of think that's where they have to go. It's not where they have to go. If they started adopting healthy lifestyle habits and changing the food that they're feeding their body, they don't have to go there at all, and neither do you. Dr. Daniel Amen, who you might have caught at some point on PBS, he's the brain guy that studies all the brain scans, especially for football players, but he's one of our leading experts in brain and dementia and brain injury. He actually refers to the standard American diet as weapons of mass destruction, because they're highly processed and all the essential nutrients have been lost. They are pro-inflammatory, so they're injurious to muscles, joints, and organs. There's artificially colored and sweetened, so it's toxic to the liver and other organs. And by the way, the artificial colors may be what's creating ADHD in your child. There's a high glycemic index, so it's overworking the body's sugar processing system. They're low in fiber, so they're robbing probiotics of the food that they need. And the fiber in your liver grabs the toxins to get them out of your body. So you need a diet that's high in fiber. They're laden with hormones, like all of that factory farmed meat, so that adversely affects your delicate hormone balance. And they're pesticide sprayed, where those those pesticides and herbicides are definitely toxic to your body, and they're tainted with antibiotics. And I don't know about you, but the last time I needed an antibiotic, it didn't want to work because I had eaten factory meats for a long time, and as a child, I had so many allergies and so many sicknesses. I was always on one antibiotic or another. So I'm resistant to antibiotics. They don't want to work on me anymore. So clean up your diet so you don't get sick in the first place. This diet is typically high in sodium, refined sugars, and omega-6 fatty acids, trans fats, and excess calories. People who maintain a diet with simple carbohydrates like bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, fruit juices, and sugar have an increased risk for problems with their digestive system, their liver, their pancreas, their heart, their circulation, and their brain health. 70% of our population is overweight. Now, I am still a work in progress, so if you're looking at me going, she could stand to lose some weight. Yep, I could, but I have lost 60 pounds without dieting, and we're going to talk about how I did that. And as a work in progress, I continue to lose weight on a regular basis because now that I'm getting nutrients, my body keeps coming back into balance, and then it drops a little bit more. So it's important. You don't want to be part of the population that's overweight, and you certainly don't want to be part of the 40% that's obese in our population. There's an overabundance of foods that are harmful to our health out there. So while most people realize that eating a steady diet of hamburgers, French fries, and soft drinks probably isn't good for our health, the convenience of junk food or fast food is a dangerous trap that we're falling into on a consistent basis. Now, these are the statistics. 54% of our children now have chronic illness. I think that's frightening. That's why I did 4 podcasts on children. Food could make our children well. You just have to start feeding them higher quality food. The standard American diet is making our kids sick as hell. 30% of our children are overweight. 16% of our children have learning disabilities. 11% of our children have asthma. 10% of our children have ADHD. Remember what I just said about food dyes? Because they're part of the reason for that, but the sugar is as well. 8% of our children have food allergies. I talked a lot about how our children are popping out right at birth with a high toxic load and with tons of allergies. So if you want to conceive, clean up your diet a whole year before you and your husband start to get together to make a baby, because you don't want your children popping out with a high toxic load, which means they're loaded with allergies, they're loaded with sensitivities, and for the first time, our kids are not going to live as long as us. So you want healthy children, so clean up what you're eating before the children are even conceived. 5% of our children have seizures. 2% of our males have autism. 5% of our children in general have autism. There is a connection between toxicity and autism. There's a woman at MIT that's studying it all. It may not be the full picture, but it's all the toxic chemicals coming together that are creating this anomaly, and they probably have some things in their DNA so that some children get it and others are not. But there are people trying to unravel the mystery of autism. But until we know what's really causing it, make sure that you are feeding your children quality food. 5% of our children have seizures. By the time our children are 5, they could have as many as 7 pounds of toxins and chemicals in their little bodies. Our new statistics also state that a millennial's health is now peaking at 27 and then going downhill. You've heard me state these things before, but they're worth repeating. Gen X makes it all the way to 37 before they peak and start going downhill. 10% of the population has diabetes, and it's going to be 25% of the population in the next 20 years. 33% of our population is pre-diabetic and will have diabetes within 5 years. 39% of our population is going to dance at some point with cancer. 53 million Americans have autoimmune disease, mostly females. They're not sure why that is, but this is 1 in 5 females and 1 in 7 males. And then I started off by telling you we're 37th in the world in health. So if we can start eating better and eliminating toxins from our world, then we have a better stance to have a healthier country all the way around and have a much greater standing against the world statistics. Newborns are actually born with 287 toxins in their umbilical cord. It's coming directly from the mother and the father. The and the father part surprised me, but his toxicity also interrupts the child at birth. Childhood asthma rose 300% over the last 40 years, and that's largely because of Bt toxin and GMOs. Childhood leukemia and brain cancer has risen 40% in 40 years. I know we want to have a cure for cancer, but how about we don't let them go there in the first place, because we clean up the toxins in our lives, in our air, in our environment, and in our diets. 52%, this is the positive thing, 52% of organic buyers are now millennials because they're catching on. They don't want to go where their parents went. And buying real and whole foods is not as expensive as you think. I have a quote from a great book that I strongly recommend called How Not to Die. It's a book by a medical doctor who noticed that his mother had a disease that was going to kill her. She went into an Atkins clinic in a wheelchair to die, and she came out walking filled with energy because she was eating plant foods and reversed whatever was ailing her. So he started studying it, and How Not to Die is a fantastic book. An average serving of vegetables might cost roughly 4 times more than the average serving of junk food. But those vegetables have been calculated to average 24 times more nutrition. So on a cost per nutrition basis, vegetables offer 6 times more nutrition on dollar compared to highly processed foods. Now, we've talked about why you need the nutrition. Your body's constantly replacing cells. So if you don't have a high nutrition count, that's why you're getting fat. That's why you're gaining weight, because your body's holding on to every little tiny morsel that you're giving it so that it can try to have something to function on. And because meat is less nutritious and costs more, vegetables will actually net you 48 times more nutrition per dollar than meat. So have a one meal at least a week that's meat-free, and eat all vegetables and eat vegetable protein sources. Just make sure they're not GMO, and 95% of soy is genetically modified. So if you're going to eat soy, it has to be organic. If your intent is to shovel as many calories as possible into your mouth for the least amount of money, then continue to eat the SAD diet, because healthier foods will lose out. But if you want to shovel the most nutrition into your mouth as cheaply as possible, look no further than the produce aisle or your farmer's market. Spending just 50 cents more a day on fruits or vegetables might buy you a 10% drop in mortality. Now that's a bargain. And if you do that over the next decade and only had good side effects, how much do you think drug companies would change? Probably. How much drug companies would charge? More than 50 cents. So start eating your fruits and vegetables. That's the key to good living and good health. Now, I want you to feed your kids real food, stop them from eating fast food, and you're the influencer, so teach them how to read labels, teach them why they're going to eat fruits and vegetables, and teach them how to love them. And to do that, you got to get off the sugar and the chemicals. So I want to explain to you what happens when you're eating sugar and chemicals. All those sugars and chemicals from fast food and processed food is lighting up the same part of the brain that cocaine and heroin light up. So then you start releasing oxytocin. because you're releasing it into where you're shining and you're going up like a pinball machine. So you're starting to subdue your own feel-good hormones, which are GABA and dopamine and serotonin. You're even subduing your insulin from working properly, which keeps your moods even and steady. And you get that burst of oxytocin and you want more, so you go eat more fast food and processed food, and then woo, you get that big boost of oxytocin, so you go back and you eat more. So food is constantly calling your name from the kitchen, or as you drive past that fast food place, you've got to stop and you've got to go get it because you need that hit of your addiction. And it turns off your two little hormones from back of your neck called ghrelin and leptin, which regulate your appetite. And they're doing the same thing to your kids. Once you stop eating this food, it only takes about a week and a half or 2 weeks. And then you're free. Your own feel-good hormones start to work again. You're not lighting up that part of your brain like a pinball machine. Your ghrelin and your leptin come back and your brain knows when you're full, so you stop eating when you're done. I was constantly in the kitchen looking for more, not understanding how I could possibly still be hungry. Well, I wasn't. These two little hormones just weren't working. So you want to make sure that you detox off of that, and then your feel-good mood hormones start to work and you get your taste buds back. So now all those fruits and vegetables start tasting fantastic. So you don't go looking for that food anymore. You have food freedom. And if you do this with your whole family and you come out the other side, your kids aren't going to want it when their little friends offer them this stuff. And even if they were just to eat it once, it's not going to hook them again, because they're going to notice that they don't feel very good when they eat that food, and that they feel fantastic when they're eating what you're cooking for them. And cook with them. Let them have quality decisions about what they're going to eat, so that they should be making their own lunches. They should be cooking with you. They should be meal planning with you, so that they're getting to eat the things that they want to eat, but you're only giving them healthy choices in the first place. There was actually a study where there were people on an island that had fast food and people on an island that didn't have fast food, and the people on the island that had fast food were depressed all the time, and their moods were always in the doldrums, whereas the people who were on the island that were only eating fruits and vegetables, they were in a great mood all the time, and they couldn't believe the difference in the test results of the two different peoples. So even if you've been eating the SAD diet your entire life, I want to tell you there's hope. If you pull off those chemicals and you pull off the sugar, you start lighting that part of your brain up, and you let these two little hormones come back, and you let all your good mood hormones come back, your body will start to heal pretty rapidly. So it's never too late to adopt healthy habits. And so I want you to think about doing this as quickly as possible. The recipe for boosting your fiber intake is actually pretty simple. Canned beans are cheap and contain a boatload of fiber. Whole foods and vegetables are great sources for fiber. Seeds and nuts and whole grains, organic whole grains, are also excellent. And even popcorn has a ton of fiber, so that's a great snack for your afternoons. Make it organic though, because corn is a genetically modified crop. A half a cup of black beans, 1 medium organic potato, an apple organic, an orange, a small bowl of organic pasta, a cup of broccoli. Now that's when it's okay if you don't eat it organic. They will all fulfill the recommended daily fiber for almost everybody. Make sure you're eating fruits and vegetables that are organic and that you're getting adequate fiber, and then a quality protein source, and that you're getting quality oils, which are omega-3s. I have a whole card and a blog on my website about what your omega-3 oils are. They're coconut oil, they're avocado oil, they're olive oil, but don't cook with it. It has too low of a smoke point. I cook with ghee, which is butter that's had the milk solids taken out since I'm sensitive to butter, and it's organic. There are ways for you to get quality omega-3s and then eat wild caught fish because they're loaded with omega-3s and they're super good for you. So the bottom line of all of this is don't dig your grave with your own knife and fork. Clean up what you're eating. An estimated 133 million Americans, that's half the population, are struggling right now with at least one chronic illness. So let's clean it up, because by 2030, if we stay on this road, it is estimated that it's going to be more than 170 million people who have a chronic illness. And remember, the chronic illnesses are autoimmune disease, cancer, and heart disease. They are not fun. So you don't want to go there, so clean up today. Now, I've already talked about how to detox off of that stuff. I will tell you the general consensus of my first group that went through the sugar detox was they had no idea how addicted they were until they tried to stop. And then they were shocked that once they broke the addiction, it was so easy to not be looking for sugar all the time. So don't be afraid to do a sugar detox. It's important. And again, if you want to take it with me, write to me at CherylMHealthMuse@gmail.com, because I'm going to be running them quarterly. And we have fun. The group has fun. We get to know each other, and I give you all my best tips on how to do this and how to live going forward. There actually was a book that got published that I bought when I was writing my first and second book, which I strongly recommend, by the way. This book gives you all of my tips to have a social life and not eat the standard American diet. And the first book tells you all the places that I found toxins and replaced them with lower toxin things so that I could lower my toxic load so that I could return to a pain-free existence. Both books I wrote because the information in them is crucial to you leading a healthy life. And rather than you doing all the research, 5 years of research I put into those books. And those two books have now lost 24 awards between them. 7 awards for my newest book, the second one, and 17 awards for my first book. So there's valuable information in them both. And you don't have to do the research because I already did it, so just go read them. You can read them in any order, and there are morsels that are priceless in both books for you to adopt a healthier lifestyle. But I started saying, there was a book that I bought when I was doing all my research by a New York Times food editor called Pandora's Box. And she actually went to a convention for big food of fake ingredients that were made to taste like real food, but there was nothing nutritious about any of them. Big Food has learned how to make fake ingredients with umamis that make your tongue just happy as heck, that's what you're feeding it, but it's not making your body happy because there's no nutrition in it. They are purely food-like substances, and they are addicting. And so you got to break away from that if you're going to win at this. If you've been beating yourself up for not having willpower, it has nothing to do with willpower. They have addicted you on purpose because obesity is big business. Food addiction is no joke. It's as real as a drug addiction, and it activates that same reward center in the brain. And often, recovering alcoholics or drug addicts replace their addiction with food. So you don't want to go to drugs, you don't want to go to alcohol, and you don't want to be addicted to food, especially food that gives your body nothing worthwhile. The standard American diet is actually giving us an illusion that we have eaten, when in fact we have not. And I have commented before on my podcast, if you've been watching them, that I read in the very beginning, if I was obese, which I was, it was because I was starving and I didn't understand it. I do now. I was starving because I wasn't giving my body any nutrition. So I want you to start eating for nutrition. Once the addiction is broken, you will love eating real food, and I can't begin to tell you how terrific it feels. So get through there. And The standard American diet consists of foods that actually cause neural inflammation, like gluten, which causes atrophy of your cerebellum region of the brain. So that's why we're getting dementia so much, and we don't have to go there. For every 10% of your diet that comes from processed food, your risk of death goes up by 14%. Are any of these statistics making you realize that it's time to change now? I hope so. Our bodies are not meant to deal with fake food, so stop eating crap. CRAP stands for carbonated drinks, refined sugar, artificial foods, and processed foods. I found a little cartoon that I'm going to put right over me talking here on why are our healthcare costs higher than other countries. And there's this huge obese character going, who said that? Who said that? While he's drinking a big gulp drink. People on the standard American diet have an excess of unhealthy nutrients. Sugar, salt, alcohol, tobacco, greases, saturated fats, pesticides, artificial colorants, and preservatives. People who eat the GLAD diet are eating healthy nutrients. They're eating healthy protein, vegetable protein, vitamins, minerals, a proper amount of fiber, complex carbohydrates, water, fruits and vegetables, and omega-3 fats. What's the difference between the health in these two different characters? The person eating the SAD diet is eating refined food. 45% of his calories are coming from fat. 42 teaspoons of sugar are being taken in daily. More doctor visits, more allergies, more arthritis, more sleep disorders, more depression, more cancer, 4 times more heart attacks, 4 times more sugar diabetes, higher blood pressure, higher triglycerides, higher cholesterol, higher heart disease, and it requires 100 miles of new blood vessels for every pound of additional fat. But if you're eating the GLAD diet, the Green Living diet, you're eating more fresh produce, you're eating more whole grain products, you're eating less meat, you're eating less refined sugar, you have more self-acceptance, fewer accidents, a longer lifespan, better brain power, less heartburn, a higher energy level, and men get more virility. So all the way around, that's a good thing. And they aren't getting standard American diseases and dying of standard American deaths. Dietary patterns are set for children at a very early age, somewhere between the ages of 4 and 8. The research shows that children who have established a healthy diet are healthier for the rest of their lives and are less likely to develop cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, and autoimmune diseases. So the bottom line of all of this is if you're eating the SAD, you can't expect to feel like $1 million if you're eating from the dollar menu. Food quality matters, and don't forget it. So there's a theory that if there's an ad on television about a food, that's a good indication that you shouldn't be eating it. And our kids are being bombarded by all of these ads that are encouraging them to eat all of these empty calories. So be aware of it, discuss it with your child so that they understand it, and continue to feed them quality food so that they aren't being influenced by it. The average child in the United States sees 6,000 ads for junk food and soda, and even more through social media. So poor and minority children are even being targeted greater. And never forget, obesity is big business. So big food, big pharma, big agriculture, they don't want you to win because there's too much money. And they don't care about our health. They care about their profits. So you own it, you pull away from it. And just as another side, every year the United States spends more money on diets than the amount needed to feed all the hungry people in the entire world. And yet still 160 million people are obese, and all those hungry people are still starving. There's 60 different names for sugar, so you can look that up. And stay away from genetically modified foods. At the same place on my website where I have the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, I have the card with what is genetically modified at the moment. Remember, whatever genetically modified it is, whether it's with BT toxin or with Roundup Ready, those foods are laden with toxins that are disrupting your body, so you don't need them. A organic vegetable at the grocery store has a 5-digit code. A conventionally grown, which is the ones that might or might not have all the toxins on them, have a 4-digit code, and genetically modified has an 8 in front of the 5-digit code. So stay away from that stuff. And don't be sad, be glad. Eat plants, exercise, sleep, practice mindfulness, relaxation, and foster loving relationships. Eat plants. It will serve you well. Read my 2 books. They are loaded with great information. And to support our cells, organs, muscles, and bones, don't forget, food quality matters. And that's my show for today. I have summed up everything that I have been learning about the SAD diet and the GLAD diet. My husband and I eat the GLAD diet. We take our food with us when we travel so that we're never stuck. We always have emergency food. And trust me, you are not deprived eating good food. You can, I just published today on Facebook a stack of pancakes that you can make using almond flour, great source for potassium, great source for protein, and I make syrup with just a little bit of real maple syrup, and then I cook down berries. You are not deprived when you eat this way, but you are eating food that your body can use, so it's time for you to start to learn how to do it, and it's worth it for you to cook, because then you control what you're putting into your body, and you will live long and thrive. So thank you for joining me today. I am delighted to be able to explain to you that you need to change immediately so that you can live into old age and be healthy and not be decrepit with standard American diseases and then go and die the standard American death, because the standard American death is very painful and it's not a pretty place to go. So start to clean up now, clean up the toxins, clean up your food, eat quality nutrition of all the colors of the rainbow, and then you'll have a healthy body and you will foster a healthy family. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you again soon. Bye. Hello. Could I see a show of hands if there's anybody out there like me who's tried to lose weight their whole life and not been successful? So you've tried all the different diets available. You've tried Weight Watcher. You've tried Jenny Craig. You've tried all the New York Times bestsellers. And the last time you did it, you started off great, just like all the other times. And you started losing weight, and then all of a sudden you fell off the horse. And before you know it, you're eating fast food and processed food again with all that sugar, and you don't even know why. And in the end, you've gained more weight than where you started out. So you now are beating yourself up that you just don't have the willpower to win. If that's you, I want to address the elephant in the room, because 9 years ago I got autoimmune disease and started researching because I didn't want the pain that came with the autoimmune disease, and the added benefit was I lost the weight along the way. So let me tell you what happens. Big Food doesn't want you to win. They've rigged the system. They've put so many chemicals into fast food and processed food that they light up the brain like a pinball machine. It's the same part of the brain that goes off for cocaine and heroin, and you feel great when you eat that food, but it's not making you feel good, and you're starving your body for nutrition because it's loaded with empty calories, so you're getting fat eating that food, and it's not giving your body what you need. And it's turning off all your own feel-good hormones of serotonin and dopamine and even your insulin, which keeps your moods even. But worse than that, there's two little hormones here at the back of your neck called ghrelin and leptin, and they don't work, and they regulate your appetite because all those chemicals have subdued them, so you don't even know when you're full. So what did I learn to do instead? I'm eating the GLAD diet, loaded with all the phytonutrients that my body needs to be healthy and to thrive and to boost my immune system and to ditch the pain. And along the way of eating all this live food, I lost 60 pounds without dieting. You see, I was starving my body for nutrition when I was eating the standard American diet, and now that I'm giving my body all those beautiful phytonutrients, it's not holding on to it anymore, so it's just dropping it automatically. So don't eat the standard American diet. I don't want you to get a standard American disease, and I certainly don't want you to die the standard American death. Instead, start eating the GLAD diet, because by eating all those beautiful phytonutrients, you will be healthier and you will live long and thrive. Thank you.